jump right in. So today, guys, we have a good friend of mine, James Boyd, on the call. And man, James, it's been a minute. I know we've been chatting a lot for the last 2-3 weeks, but it's been a minute since we've been chatting as much as we've been talking lately, huh?
Yeah, right, man. It's good to talk to you, though. Glad to see you. Always.
Yeah, man, so good to see you. So James, can you do me a favor, and obviously the team, anyone's on today or anyone that watches later, tell us about you. So what I know about you, obviously, you went to the best school in the country, the Penn State University.
Right. I know you're in Michigan, so a lot of people that's kind of hard to swallow.
I know exactly. And there's actually some Buckeyes around here too that I just kind of, yeah, I don't know. But so tell us about life, before college, and tell us about football. Obviously, you went on and played in the NFL. You're a Butkus Award candidate back in college. And man, I've seen some highlight reels. I saw you playing live, of course, but some highlight reels. You're a big time hitter back in the day, buddy. So share a little bit of your background.
Right, definitely. So I'm from Virginia Beach, the Hampton Roads area. I was raised my mom, my single mom, actually, 2 sisters. I was the oldest. So I played sports all my life. So I was always the big brother, the daddy type figure for my sisters, while my mom worked 2 jobs at times. Big family. My mom is the youngest of 10. She's a twin. So, back in the day, used to have a big family. So I have a big family. In high school, we play games. My high school friends used to joke all the time. Half of the stands was my family. So it was funny, but it was good growing up with a big family. So that's kind of, a little bit about me. Grew up playing sports all my life. So from the time I picked up a ball, a bat, ran track, basketball, football, I was always good. So when I came out of high school, Bill Kenny started recruiting me at Penn State. I was considered an athlete, so because I could play more than one position on the field. So, so I did the high school thing, won the state championship in high school, was a high school All-American. Back then they called it the blue chips. Now they call it, 100 different things. So, pretty much was good in everything I did, playing sports. Not to sound conceited, but that's just what it was. I grew up in Hampton Roads, so, Plexico Barris, Dre Bly, Allen Iverson, Alonzo Mourning, a lot of those guys, we all grew up in the same area. So, just being competitive and playing against each other was always good.
Love it. And obviously those guys went on and had some killer careers in the NBA and in sports too. So right. You're an All-American. So obviously Penn State was recruited you and got you in. And what other schools recruited you out of high school?
I was the number 2 safety in the country, so I pretty much had about 60 offers. Growing up, my thing was Syracuse. So if somebody asked me early on as a freshman, sophomore, I would always say Syracuse is my top candidate. Never went. I probably just liked them, the uniforms or whatever. So I started going to Penn State football camp when I was a freshman. So I kind of did that every year. So I got to build a relationship with the guys, with the coaching staff. So when it came time to choosing a school, it was pretty easy.
Yeah. I remember, when I went on my recruiting visit to Penn State, my connection there is a little different than yours. So playing soccer, my older brother went there. So that was kind of initially how they found me. And I went to the camps also. So to the culture of the team, like really, I mean, my brother was there. So I was going there probably no matter what. So that's awesome. So, and you get to Penn State, and this is in what, 97? I was going to say 97, 98, same year I went in. And how Penn State, we were top 5. We were number 1 in the country a period of time there, right? We were pretty good back then.
So when I got there, we was the number 1 recruiting class in the country. And the year before, they had the number 1 recruiting class in the country. And then the year afterwards, they had the number 1 recruiting class in the country. So our freshman year, we came out, we was number 1 and number 2 in the country in the preseason polls. So that was the same year Charles Woodson won the Heisman. So we ended up being like 8-0. Michigan came to us. They beat us in a tight game. Then we went on. We lost another game again. I think about a field goal to Minnesota. We end up playing Florida in the Citrus Bowl in Tampa, I believe it is. So we finished like 10-2, 11-2, something like that. So it was a great year, but it was very competitive. So in that same, freshman class that I was in, you had LeVar Arrington. We had the number one class in the country. So it was a very competitive thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And for you guys that don't know LeVar came out, right? He was top 3 pick in the NFL draft, or top 10. I forget.
Second pick in the draft. So that year he came out, we had the number 1 and the number 2 pick in the draft. And both from the defensive side of the ball. Courtney Brown was number 1 and LeVar Arrington was number 2.
That's right. And so you play 4 years of competitive, obviously top 20 football. I'm curious a little bit about, again, people know the name Joe Paterno, and the wins and everything else. One thing about, we'll start with the athletes you played with. What did you learn about life, leadership, yourself, being around guys that went on? And you obviously had an amazing career in the NFL too, but playing around these guys, any habits, any life lessons around them that you saw them in college that you're like, yeah, no kidding, they're playing in the NFL, no kidding, they're doing well.
Right, just the competitiveness and just wanting to be the best. And you start to go on Joe, right? I had the director of player personnel on my podcast yesterday. So, and we kind of talked about some of the stuff that, Coach Franklin looking at the guys now, right? And Joe was always about, it was more than football, right? And he understood that it was only going to be a little bit of people, a 4% chance that most people was going to make the NFL. So, he always said, well, I'm not preparing you guys for the NFL, I'm preparing for life after football, because not everyone in here is going to be able to play in the NFL. But the guys that did and was able to go to that level and play, and, obviously skill and hard work, is one thing that, kind of separates you from everybody else. But, just the way the workout habits, the way you see people carry it throughout the day, because your body is your tempo, right? And your body is your business in sports. So you got to be able to take care of your body. So, you hear these crazy stories about, when Kobe was playing, he would go overseas and spend $2 or $3 million a year on his body, right? And LeBron do the same thing. So, because your body is your tempo, so you got to take care of your body, because that is the business. So, because once that started, go down as far as being healthy, then you're gonna be sitting on the sideline more than on the field.
Yeah. And listen, I argue that that's how it is in business too. Right. So people, as you've, and we'll talk about your career in a second, but outside of football, but I believe that your mind, your heart, how you show up every day in your career, whether it's football or business, I feel it has a lot of correlation.
Yeah, definitely preparation, right? So, you got to be prepared, for the day, for the game. And when I got to Jacksonville, my rookie year, that was the difference, right? I see a Donovan Darius, who was a Pro Bowl safety who I was learning from, that opened arms to me, and I'm there basically competitive to take his position. So it was still open arms and teaching me the business, right? Because it's funny, because I remember talking to my mom one day, my rookie year, and she was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "About to go to work," right? So that was the first time that I looked at it as work. Because, when you get in there, it's grown men, everybody trying to feed their families. So that was one of the things that kind of, when I first got there from Penn State, that is now a business. So now you got to start treating it like a business. So just the way you prepare, watching film, watching tape, no different than being prepared as a business owner, being prepared for the day, sitting down on Sundays, looking at your planner for the week, just trying to, putting everything in order.
Love it. And to be fair, I didn't share. So you have an awesome career at Penn State. You get drafted in the NFL draft. What was it like the day? And what, you were second round draft pick, right?
Yeah, third round draft pick.
Oh, third.
Jacksonville. Yep.
And so financially, life changes. You get drafted in the NFL in the third round.
Right.
a ton of hard work, accolades, etc. You get. Did you do anything for you? Did you do anything for mom? And I think I already know the answer to this because I know you well. But for anyone
Right.
that's listening, what you get a big payday, right? So what did you do?
So, I mean, obviously, for me, once I got the big payday, my mom was everything. So she worked so hard for all those years. So the first thing I went out and I bought her a house and a car. So that was the first thing I did. And so then when I got to Jacksonville, just kind of like learning the land of the lake. I had a condo. For me, I was young, so it really a house wasn't in the plans, right? So I just bought a condo, got her something, and it was just just making sure she was good because I know she was good, my sisters was good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. And I think there's a lot of people here in life and in business, hey, that the heart is with mama, the heart is with family,
Right,
and that's why they
right.
work so hard. So,
Yeah.
so very cool. So, and you play, how long did you play in the NFL? And tell us about the, maybe some of the big names you're obviously on the defensive side of the ball. So who are some of these
Right,
guys that you would cover?
right. So for 4 years, I got three in Jacksonville, one in Cleveland. So some of the big guys I played with on defense, the year I came out, Marcus Stroud was our #1 pick. You guys in Michigan, Maurice Williams was our second round pick, was a offensive tackle from Michigan. Some other guys, Donovan Darius, who was a Pro Bowl safety. Fred Taylor, if you watched the pivot, Fred Taylor, the runner, was our star, all pro running back at Jacksonville. Another one, we had two Pro Bowl receivers, and Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell. Um, Quarterback was Mark Brunell, who was also a Pro Bowler at a point in his career.
Mhm.
One of my teammates, Tony Baselli, offensive tackle, actually going to the NFL Hall of Fame this year. So we had a lot of talent on that team. We was just young. We had a lot of talent on the team. The offense was a little bit older than us. The defense was straight raw and young. And
Yeah,
we had a lot of guys up there was just hungry to play. So
that's awesome.
we had some veterans on the defensive side of the ball. Again, Donovan Darius, uh, who was Tony Brackens, who was a Midwest guy as well. Fernando Bryant, Pro Bowl corner. Aaron Beasley, a Pro Bowl corner. So we had a lot of talent, man. It was fun. It was exciting. It was a good mix of younger players with the older players. So we had a good time. And then we had Tom Coughlin as our coach. So for me, it was almost mirror of having Joe Paterno because they was identical in one, right? It was just rigid, old school, military backgrounds, and it was all about them, right? I remember the first time having a meeting with Tom Coughlin, he made all of our watch to his watch. He's like, I don't care what the other clocks say. We go by my watch. So if my watch say you late, you late. And then in the NFL, with Tom, if you was late for a meeting, that was $3,500.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you weren't late.
No, I learned that. I learned that early from Coach Paterno. You 15 minutes early, you on time. You on time, you late.
Yeah, that's so funny. Oh man. I remember when Paterno walked in our locker room one time, we were in the NCAA tournament and he was just like, you know what to do. Let's go do it. Like, that was it. We're like waiting for this big speech here about to play. I forget who we were playing, like, I don't know, UVA or somebody in the NCAA tournament. And we're like, okay. That was it.
Man,
Like,
he was a good guy, man. It was for him. It was always about teaching us how to be men, right? And he would pick on people on the team, and we didn't understand why until later, because he always picked on me, like because he was like it was groups, right? It was cliques amongst the team, and he always said, "Well, I know who the leaders of the groups are." I'm like, what do you mean leaders? He was like, "Have you ever seen the study where they put a group of kids in a room and they study the kids at 5 years old, right? And they study the interaction, and 20 years later they go back and look at those kids, and based off the notes that they did from the study, they know exactly who are leadership quality and who are leaders in those groups." And he always would say stuff to certain people. I was like, why you always ratting me? Why you always saying something to me? Why, like, I'm not responsible for those guys. He was like, you are. You just don't know that. Because if you say no, they're gonna not do it. If you're okay with it, then they're gonna do it. So if you guys are out doing something and you guys hanging out, they'll listen to you more than they listen to anybody else.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and so obviously football, you played for a few years, then you get into business, right? I know we worked together for a period of time and had some fun in Atlanta and LA. And then you've gone on and you've worked in the medical device sales, right? So you're in the sales now. You're a bit of an entrepreneur, which is awesome. How have you applied what you learned in sports to your business career now?
Let me go back to us working together. So, it's funny because, we started working together, I think it was 2007, 2008, right? And, when you come from, the top of, at the top of the chain playing and, professional sports, right? It's kind of, and you start a whole new genre and a whole new business, right? And so then you got to step back and humble yourself and sit and learn from somebody. It was easy for me because you had probably the Penn State thing, right? So, and then you played at a high level too, as far as soccer and playing, doing your thing and doing your dream. So it was kind of more of sitting there learning from you and applying what I learned from you and sports over the last 4 years with Coach Paterno. So for me, it was always, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So you were successful in what you was doing. So for me, it was easy to sit and humble myself and learn from you.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate that. We had some fun.
We did.
This was back BK.
Right.
Before kids and BM before marriage.
Right.
We'll just keep it there. We'll just
keep PG.
PG. All right. We had some good times. All right. So tell me about this. So you're in sales, your medical device, you're now in entrepreneurship. Why that world for you? Why the control? Why is that so exciting for you now and all the projects?
When we moved out to California with my guys, when I moved out there, we started a business. When I came back over on the East Coast, I started IT. So I was already with the experience that I got from working with you guys. It was easy for me to get back into the IT field. So I got started with Comcast Business in Washington, D.C. And I was a business consultant for them. And we was working on their business-to-business campaign, which included their Fios, which I knew all about Verizon and AT&T. So I knew the competitor. So, it was easy for me to talk, the language and the business and compare it to what they was being compared to and getting and trying to do. So for me, it was easier. So I did that for about 5 years. And every time I went back to Penn State, all of my teammates was doing medical device sales. So I'm like, why is everybody doing medical device sales? Like I had one, I don't know if you remember Matt Kranchak. He was a tight end at Penn State. So Matt was a 3rd round draft pick to Pittsburgh Steelers, probably 2 years after me. And I talked to Matt one day on the sideline. We was at a game. He had just stopped playing a year before. So he got into medical device sales and he was the distributor. So he had his own company. And I was like, well, Dad, Matt, why everybody doing medical device sales? So we was talking and he was telling me. So I was like, okay. He's like, are you interested? I got some people in Baltimore, but that might be looking to bring someone on. They have their own distributorship as well. So I was like, okay. So he introduced me to those guys. I talked to those guys for about a year and we kind of met up for lunch, just trying to see if it was a good fit to work together. So once we decided, I started doing the medical device business and I was in it for 10 years until this past year where I decided to do something different.
Right. And you told me recently that world has changed a lot, right? So there's all the good business in the past because of COVID and a few different things, things have changed. So good to hear that you're taking control and sorry to hear that kind of turned that way,
Oh, no, it's for the better. It's cool. You learn, get what you can learn and move on. And, we was distributors, Stryker, which is in your backyard right now, corporate headquarters. So company we was distributors with was called K2M. And they was one of the younger innovative spine companies technology wise. And they started in 2002, 2003 with a rep and a surgeon who started the company. They just went out and bought a bunch of patents. So when I started with them, they was probably a $500 million company. So for the 10 years I worked with them, they built the company up. So then you started to have, your Medtronics, your Strikers, all the big boys come around because we started to take too many shares. So now they want to purchase the company. So Stryker came in and purchased the company. So once Stryker purchased the company, it just changed. The whole thing changed. That small company feel to be able to, be more personable with your surgeons and your clients changed, because then it's all about the numbers, right? So, and then, Stryker technology wise, while they might be the biggest medical device company in the world, technology, they just behind. And that's something that they need to work on. So that was one of the big reasons why I left, because a lot of my surgeons were asking for the latest, greatest technology, and we just didn't have it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's always tough when you have these big corporations making decisions on the level up here that impacts the people that are really involved, right? They don't always see the details, and really in the industry that we have, as why AT&T and some of these big clients actually outsource us to sell their services and do what we do is because we are that small, nimble, agile organization. So very cool. So tell me about this. So obviously you're a dad now, right? You got a beautiful family. What do you teach in Junior? What are some life lessons you talk to him about?
Oh, just life, man. Just try to teach him, to be responsible. When you that age, I think and I think we done the same thing with our parents, right? Like we out like this the first time this happened, right? So, he tried to pull stuff over me. I was like, dude, I already done that. I was your age before. Like, just be honest with me. We can make mistakes. Just man up to your mistake, and then we just fix the mistake. So, the kids are good. So, it's not a big thing with them. They pretty respectful. They listen. It's just kind of, letting them be 15. And my wife say a lot of times, you too hard. Like he's 15. Let him make mistakes. So sometimes I just kind of had to fall back. He don't ask me. He don't come to me for a lot. He go to her, because he know what I'm gonna say. So she'll be like, did your son ask you for this? I'll be like, no. He asked you? She's like, yeah. I said, what you say? She's like, oh, I told him come to you. So he was like, no thanks. That's okay. I don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. I don't want to ask Dad.
I'll figure it out. Yeah, because that's what I make him do. I make him figure it out. Like if he asks me instead of doing it for him, I'm like, all right, well, you go figure it out, and then you come back and let me know. Because if I keep doing it for him, he'll never figure it out on his own.
Right. Very cool. So tell me, so looking back, you're still a young Jedi, 27, from what I can tell based on the numbers we talked about. So what would you tell your 22-year-old self if you're to start, coming out of school? Maybe it's to do with football, maybe it's to do your business career. What would you tell your 22-year-old self?
Probably, today, looking at, college and professional athletes today, and the social media part back then was fairly new. I mean, we had minimum. Just treating yourself as a business early on as a professional athlete, looking at it as a business, right? So, with endorsements and how you network and how you meet people, because when you plan, at that level, you come in contact with everyone, right? You come in contact with your Bill Gates. You come in contact with your Elon Musk. You come in contact with all those people. So just making sure you building those relationships and, looking at the future, because, as far as playing football is minimum, it's short, right? So I think the minimum year, the average is 4 years, right? So when you finish playing, you still under 30, right? For most people, you're still under 30, so you're still fairly young. So just making sure you building those relationships that you can go back to later on. And, even if it's in the off season, kind of building relationships, with an Elon Musk, as a ball player, can I come over in the summertime and do an internship, right? Just doing things that you can do and build relationships. So when his football career is over, it's easier to transition and you got those contacts.
Love it. Love it. And when I think about that, I think about like how often when you treat people kindly, no
Right.
matter what you do, whether it's in a restaurant, whether it's in your community, in your church or whatever, you never know.
Prime example, look at Shaq. Look how Shaq could go out and, he could, I heard him talking on the pivot the other day, and he was telling a story about his dad, where, after, I think it was his rookie year after playing against the New York Knicks, and Patrick Ewing just kind of had his night with Shaq, and he called his dad, because Shaq is from New Jersey, and he called his dad from LA, or from Orlando at the time, and he was talking to his dad. His dad was like, I need you to get here in the next 5 hours. You off for the next 2 days. I need you to get here. Shaq said he jumped on the plane, got there. His dad rode him around Jersey, like the Newark areas of Jersey, and made him get out the car, because there was a family on the corner, homeless family. Made him get out the car. He left while he go over there, talked to him. And it was a man, his wife, and 2 kids, and they was family. They was homeless. So he left Shaq there with him for about 5 hours. Shaq got him an apartment, paid it for the whole year, put $100,000 in an account so they can have some money and and get their life together. And he said to this day that guy is one of his best friends, and he actually runs, because Shaq have a lot of business with is it Papa John's, one of the pizza brands, and the guy actually that guy actually runs everything for Shaq, Papa John's stuff.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. And listen, I think as you mature in life, you start to realize life, yes, it's about making some money, but really it's about helping people and having them on the journey with you and paying it forward. So love it. Love it. Love it. So James, biggest game you played in?
Biggest game? I think every game when you're talking about professionally, because you never know when it's going to be your last time. But in college, I would say the Miami game, when we played Miami my junior year in Miami.
Is that where we had the bomb for the 70 yards and the last play or something?
The last play of the game, right. So it was funny, right? So we went there. Now that team was loaded. Like, if you know college football, that Miami team, we was loaded, but that Miami team was loaded. I want to say they had about 25 first-round draft picks on that team. So we went in, and it was, we was playing, and the game was tight. And, we probably have number 1 and number 2 defense in the country, and they loaded, but they're young, right? So we're going to take advantage of that because we're more experienced and we older, right? So, the game was tight. We get down to the last, under a minute left.
Yeah.
I think they winning by 3 points. So we go to Chaffee Fields, who's a big time sports agent, and he lives in Miami. So, so Chaff play receiver. They have Rump and they have Ed Reed. They both to the side Chaff is on. So we threw a 70-yard touchdown to end the game. So now we on the sideline. So we get back to Penn State the next day. So Joe Paterno's showing us the tape. And so he showed a touchdown, and he was he paused it. He was like, so what's wrong with this picture? And all our guys in the end zones, the offense in the end zone, that scored the touchdown. Everybody was like, well, no. He said, number 6, why are you in the end zone? I was in the end zone after they scored a touchdown, and I played defense, and I ran over the sideline. So he was like, I know y'all excited. Just make sure you be careful. Don't give us a flag. I was like, the game was over, coach. The game was over.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know this, but so that night I remember really well back at Penn State. So you guys had that game down in Miami. It was a Friday Saturday night or a Saturday.
Right.
We were playing Akron the same night. And because you guys, it was a 4:00 game, I think, set in the afternoon game.
Right. Yeah.
So we had a game at 7.
Uh-huh.
That play happens. And we're, Jeffrey Field, where we played, was right next to Beaver Stadium.
Right.
And we were warming up, and the game is starting, and we just start seeing all these people running to the stadium.
Right.
And we're like, what the hell is that? And of course, the announcer comes on the thing and says, hey, our Penn State football team just beat, Miami and upset them, blah, blah. And of course, our 2,000 people went crazy or whatever it was, right? Whatever we had in our game. And then no joke. So 10 minutes later, we're in the middle of the game, and I remember looking up, and the ball goes out of bounds, the inline. And I'm looking up, I'm like, what are all these people? Well, they went to the stadium and they saw the police were there guarding the stadium because they didn't want them to take the goalposts or anything.
Right,
So they got pissed, and they're all drunk because they're college kids.
right,
And
right.
they came down to our stadium, and we went from 2,000 to literally 20,000 people in our stadium like that. No joke. So our stadium could handle like 10,000 maybe.
Right.
And they packed the stands. There is standing room only on the sideline, between the sideline and the stands. And no joke. So the reason I remember this, the ball goes out of bounds, right? And I'm like going to get the ball, and I'm like, where'd it go? I'm like, hey, give me the ball. We can get back in and we can score, because Akron was like top 5. We were top 10.
Yeah. Right.
I'll never forget it. We threw the ball in, little 1-2 in the sidelines. I put across the box, and one of our right midfielders came in and did a header and put it in the back of the net. And the whole place went freaking crazy. I've never been in like playing like a soccer game with that many people.
Right,
and it was, and of course, like they're chanting the whole game or whatever. And it goes into halftime. This is the funniest part. We go into halftime. We're all fired up. We're like, dude, this is gonna be awesome. We got like 20,000 people. We walk out after halftime. They're gone. Every single one of them were gone.
So they just left after halftime.
They just left. They're like, impulse died. I'm out.
Right.
All the drunk college.
The alcohol was wearing off.
Yeah, exactly. And you could smell it on all of them.
I'm sure.
Oh man, I'll never forget that night. That's awesome. All right, well, James, I know we've had you for a little bit. Any final thoughts? Thank you so much for coming on today. Really appreciate you. Any final thoughts that you share with anyone? I mean, obviously we got a lot of young people in their careers and getting involved in our organization or in other organizations. They just want to succeed. They want to do well, take care of their families. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, man. Just Ken been in this business for a while. I'm always all about learning from people that's doing it, that's done it, that's successful at it. Don't be afraid to go and ask questions to Ken. If you want, Ken if it's okay with Ken, it's okay to call me if they want to talk. Because I feel like if you're successful at anything, you put in the time and you put in the energy, right? So, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So, you can translate that success from sports over to the business world. And when you look at a lot of companies today, and I think we used to do it a lot, Ken, even there. And when we put out ads and promotions for jobs, we put in sports-minded individuals, right? I had this conversation with a teammate of mine in Jacksonville. He's the area president of Gallagher in Miami. And we talked about this on my podcast a week ago. Athletes and people in that space, military, they easier to work with, and they easy to train and manage because they so used to being structured on the way they run their day to day. And just being successful, just being open, and just being able to go to someone that's actually doing it and that's done it and that's successful at it goes a long way. If you don't know, don't be afraid to go out and talk to Ken or talk to some of the other leaders in your office. I think that'll go a long way.
Awesome. And do you mind sharing a little bit about your podcast so people can? I know I saw some last night on social media. You want to grow your podcast and subscribers,
right?
So please share.
Right,
please,
definitely.
People can do it.
Right, definitely. So I just started podcasting in December. So my podcast is called The Next. It's NEXXT POD. And why I started it was basically what I'm talking about now, right? So I was sitting around talking during COVID, and it's about the transition, right? For athletes, military people, what's next? So for athletes, you got a small career change in life, right? In your sport, right? So, you're talking about 5 years at max, right? Maybe 10, looking at baseball, basketball, right? So you're still under 35 years old. Right. Look at LeBron James. LeBron James been in the league 20 years. He's 38. Right. So, what's next in that transition? And I think a lot of people, being an athlete, being a former athlete, I see a lot of people have that hard time to transition, to what's next. Right. Because, I heard Fred Taylor say it on this podcast, we so used to the camaraderie in the locker room and just, that bigger than life image. So when it goes away, it's just you.
Hard.
and it's hard to deal with. So just, just bringing guys on, talking about, transition, you're going to be on in a week or so, I think. So just talking about your transition on from soccer and Penn State and athletics to, your business now and what you're doing, and just kind of giving guys and, girls and guys, the guidance and the resources to be able to, it might help someone, right? That's going through the same thing. So, that's kind of where we at. So
love it. So please, if you can, anybody watches our YouTube, go on, and where can they find it? Is it on,
It's on Spotify. It's Next, NEXXT, Pod, POD, obviously cast. And then on YouTube is at Next, NEXXT, POD 42. You can find it up there. So I have next week as well, I have Demarius Smith, who's the executive president of the NFL Players Association. We'll be sitting down next week recording. I have a bunch of people that we work on. Adam Talaferro. Me and Adam did it. We did Adams in January, so you can go in there and see Adams in January. Yesterday, I did one with the Penn State director of player personnel for the football team. Yesterday, we aired it yesterday, so we got a lot of good interviews and a lot of good stuff coming out.
So you go from me to the guy who runs the NFL. Okay, that's
so next week, make sure we don't have Ken Lear on next week. So definitely.
Oh man, well, thank you for that, and I appreciate it, and I'm honored that you invite me on to share our story. So, well, James, you're amazing. We appreciate you, brother. If everybody that's on their computers, or if they could say thank you to James, and again, please subscribe. James, we'll be talking very soon, and I loved today's